Today on the CrispyCast, we open up by talking about tabletop role-playing games and a controversy that erupted in one of the biggest tabletop role-playing game shows, if not the biggest, Critical Role, and why the controversy and the person alleging it is probably bullshit. Then we move on to Something Awful, where we discuss Jenna Marbles and her unfortunate departure from YouTube and why cancel culture continues to be a perpetual cancer upon the internet. And then we finish off today's episode by talking about TikTok's status in its Indian market. That status is currently, at least, banned. So, with all that being said, sit back and relax. Timestamps, as always, are in the description down below. You are listening to the CrispyCast. The raspy voice is back. Isn't everyone just so happy? Anyway, I have a little bit of a different intro now. I just timestamps right there in the intro so everyone knows, okay? If I'm talking about something you're not interested in, you can just skip, especially since we're talking about tabletop role-playing games a lot in the opening this time. So, just in case. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I have a new series on this channel. Oh my god, my chair is creaking like crazy. I have a new series on this channel called I Saw This on the Internet. The first episode covers some Karens in Florida who really want the coronavirus. I thought I did a decent job at making fun of them. Check that out if you want some entertainment. A little bit shorter than this podcast, a little more bite-sized consumption of Crispy's dry, terrible humor. I hope to release another episode this Saturday, so look forward to that. But anyway, Arcade Network. Let's open up with a little bit of video game stuff. Or not video game stuff. We got tabletop role-playing games today. I know it's called like Arcade Network, so it like implies video games. But some arcades have like tabletop stuff. We're talking about Dungeons & Dragons this episode. Dungeons & Dragons is a favorite thing of mine. I love D&D. And I love Critical Role. It's an amazing D&D show on Twitch. I talked about Matthew Mercer. He's the Dungeon Master and also an amazing voice actor. You probably know him as one of his many roles. Look him up. He voices so many characters. If you like a television show or a video game, he's in it, okay? He's in it. Just guarantee it. But anyway, Critical Role is an amazing show. Love it to death. And I did cover Matthew Mercer. Again, he's a Dungeon Master of that show. I covered his latest book, which is being released officially on D&D Beyond. I think it might already be out by the time of recording this. I haven't really been keeping up because, the world has been really stressful recently. But it might be out. It might not be. Don't hold me to my word on that. I might post like a little thing in the description if it's not out. But yeah. Critical Role is awesome. They did have to cancel their show because of the COVID thing, but they are coming back with like a new social distanced set, which is really cool. They're following like health guidelines, and Critical Role is just an awesome show all around. Recommend it if you're into like D&D or just storytelling, or you need to do something like over like a long drive. Like I'll always pop in a Critical Role episode if I've got like a 30+ minute drive to go on. And I don't want to listen to like the same songs again. I'm just like, oh hey, let's listen to some Critical Role. Always some good stuff there. But anyway, what's the controversy? Now usually I didn't want to like cover controversy on Arcade Network because like it's kind of stupid since there was like a video game related controversy last episode and I put in Something Awful. But this week, there wasn't really any video game news that I particularly cared about. So, we're gonna cover a Critical Role controversy, even if the connection's a little loose. Besides, we got like really big stories and Something Awful this week, so I decided to move it so I don't have only one category this episode. But anyway, the controversy is this. Now, I'm reading this off of, I got two screens. So I got two screens, and one of them is like right in front of me, and that's where I'm reading off of my notes. And the other one is like to my right, and that's where my audio gauge is. And like I occasionally look over to check if my audio is good. But now I'm gonna need to stare right at the screen because that's where I have my have all the information and the data. Because the computer I read the notes off of is kind of shit. Because that's all I use it for is reading off notes. But here we go. So hopefully I'm gonna turn Oh, this is so uncomfortable, but we're gonna survive. We're gonna survive. Is my audio still good? Is my audio still good? We are still in the green. We're still good. Okay. So these accusations come from user Lose Better on Twitter. Yes, it's a controversy on Twitter, which you know are my favorite. Absolutely favorite. Now, Lose Better, he's not a big content creator or anything. He's just a user on Twitter. I'm not trying to shade the guy or anything. I'm just a random dude on the internet too, okay? We're all just random people. All right, we're all just random people on the internet. No shame in that. No shame in that at all. He's a guy on Twitter, and I did not know who this dude was until he put out this tweet that got 2.1 thousand likes and 1.1 thousand retweets. He said this: so with Critical Role apparently coming back, I see no reason not to say this now. It's not like the people who believe I'm full of shit can believe me any less. For 4 months last year, I worked as a sensitivity consultant for Critical Role. Now, this is a podcast, so this shit isn't going to be on screen, but I'm linking this entire thread in the description down below, so you can read it yourself. Pull it up on another tab. Hopefully you have a computer, or a side computer that's less shitty than mine. I really wish I could change my setup. I might need to change my setup again, but anyway, I'm getting sidetracked once again. It's like fucking like 11:50. It's 11:42 at night right now, and I'm already exhausted. God, I'm gonna be going until like almost 1. This is gonna be great. But anyway, he continues. This is a long thread. He continues. I and a small team of collaborators approached them, Critical Role, in May of 2019, informing them that their treatment of marginalized identities in their work was unacceptable and calling for a commitment to doing better that matched their company's stated goal. At first, they were receptive. Now again, he claims here, for 4 months last year, I worked as a sensitivity consultant for Critical Role. He claims that at the top. For 4 months last year, I worked as a sensitivity consultant for Critical Role. That's important, remember that. While our outreach was purely from a logical standpoint, that I think he might mean logistic standpoint, but I don't know, about inappropriate behavior in front of an audience of 30,000, again, Critical Role's a big show. That's their live audience. Their YouTube audience, the people who watch like the archives, they get like each episode gets millions of views, and it's crazy. Of course, since each episode is so long, earlier episodes have even more views. Like the first episode is like 12 million views. It's crazy. But anyway, here we go. Critical Role expressed concern specifically with how their own mistakes had led to abuse of real people in their fan base. Something mentioned offhand. As a central victim of this, from homophobes and transphobes, incidents I had recorded an abuse report of 45 pages, I stepped forward as a representative for my whole team and spoke here. Here's a selection of what I said in one of those original emails. It's a long-ass email. I'm not reading it. We got like a time limit here, people, but if you want to read his entire thing, again, linked in the description down below, I encourage you to read it so you get the whole thing. So here's what he's saying, and this is really what tipped me off, like, first thing. Now again, I don't think I've said this before, and I meant to say at the top, I think I just forgot. But all of the information is coming from this guy's perspective. Only this guy's perspective. We have nothing from the perspective of Critical Role, the company themselves. We don't have anything from them. We only have the perspective of the accusing party, which again, like, you gotta take with a grain of salt. But even with this guy's like point of view, it's still suspicious. Even with the accuser's point of view, the accuser can't even make it look legit. Like, that's how rough this entire thing is and how stupid this controversy will turn out to be. But anyway, essentially what he's doing, and this was the first red flag, is he is saying that Critical Role should be held responsible for the actions of homophobes and transphobes that are apparently in their community. Now, that sucks. Like, it sucks that this guy's being attacked by assholes. But at the end of the day, we cannot hold companies responsible for the actions of one of their literally hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of supporters, right? That's absurd. Unless the company is literally directly advocating for that sort of behavior, you cannot hold that party accountable for something that, like, a supporter, one of thousands, is doing. Unless they're literally advocating for it. And let me tell you, I can't speak for LGBTQ stuff, but that's not the only thing he talks about. Later on, he talks about racial issues, and in fact, he goes into racial issues a lot in, like, subsequent tweets that might not even be in this thread. But while I may not be a member of the LGBTQ community, I am. Most people who watch this show know who I am in real life, so like I'll just freaking say it. And look, there's thousands of other people like me too. I am mixed race Asian, so I'm a few Asian races mixed up. I'm mixed race, and I have never. And again, I'm just one person, right? Just one guy, but I have never personally recognized any symptoms of racism in Critical Role. Critical Role is probably one of the most accepting, like, amazing, tolerable, incredible companies in terms of, like, representation and how they handle, like, minorities and all that stuff. They're really good at it, actually. I've never felt uncomfortable while watching their show. And again, I'm just one guy, but on top of that, I've never seen any accusations of racism or homophobia until this guy. So, really, I don't know what he's talking about other than some asshole community members, right? And while that sucks, if they're not advocating for it, you can't hold them responsible. That's like the first thing that sort of tipped me off about this guy's accusation. But we're going to keep on going. If you read all of that, I did, but we're not going to read it here. Again, I encourage you to read it in the description. You see that I offer my insight on how they could go forwards. I say that I would be more than happy to compare notes. Was this a mistake? Yes, but I was so desperate and the message was true. I had so much hope that they would try to do the right thing. Okay, this is petty, but I do not like how that comes off. Like, I'm gonna teach them how to represent minorities correctly. I thought if someone could get through to them, they would fix this. This is what they promised marginalized fans over and over and over again. I didn't blame them for anything, much less ignorance. Of course, they took me up on the offer. I viewed it as a success. Again, that just shows how good of a company they are. For all intents and purposes, this is just a random fan who emailed them out of the blue and offered his insight with little to no, like, again, being a sensitivity reader or being like a consultant on minorities, that's like an actual position, like that people get recruited for based on like previous works. I'll go into that a little later. Someone who actually is a minority representative, sensitivity reader, etc., etc. He goes into like what it's actually like and how this guy's post is more or less kind of bogusy. But now, if you guys didn't notice, this is what the second thing that set me off. Remember, up front, he said, I worked for Critical Role as a consultant. That implies he was, like, hired by them in some formal way. Here, it clearly shows that according to him himself, this is all coming from Lose Better himself, this is all coming from this user, the same guy directly claims that he just approached them. He was not hired, he was not recruited for the position, he wasn't promised any payment, he just came to them. Meaning that the opening of this entire article, or this entire thread of tweets, is incredibly misleading. Just up front, just out the gate. And we're not even like, dude, I can't even tell how long of the way through this. Like, are we like halfway? Yeah, it looks like we're about only halfway through this. I thought this was the opening we needed. I felt so grateful to my team and to my contacts at Critical Role. I felt heard, bolstered by their respect. Again, like shows how good of a damn company they are. My tiny team worked hard, creating a plan to start off changes properly, always deferring, always patient, thankful to be trusted. I won't bother sharing the bulk of that email. Some of it I've talked about on Twitter since. Some of it simply isn't relevant anymore, but it was real labor. Actionable steps that could take to fix basic problems, no matter how, again, I don't know what problems those are, but we'll go with it. No matter their workload or safety concerns. Now keep in mind, I was coming at this work from the perspective of a central victim of mass abuse. Critters had started abusing me in December. Okay. Again, that sucks. That's terrible, and I'm not saying that's like, I'm not trying to dismiss that he was harassed by people. That's terrible. But again, you can't hold a company accountable for something their fans do unless the company advocates for that kind of behavior, which Critical Role certainly does not. So yeah, I'd already been working for Critical Role for months, remember that. Every call for Critical Role to respond to somehow to my story was something I already knew, and I knew that they already knew. He never worked for Critical Role. He was never hired by them. I need you to keep that in mind. It is really important. You cannot expect... He keeps on going into how much work he did, and there's a reason for it. let's keep on going. But I trusted them. Here's a conversation from just before I went public with that thread. I fully believed that they were in my corner, and that if things went south, they would protect me over the bigots in their fan base. Alright, this is stupid. I gambled on that because back to my work with them, we had been having conversations on Discord as well as video calls to discuss bigger long-term changes to how their company functioned. I don't know what he sort of wants from them, like how they're supposed to manage their fan base. Like, you can issue bans to assholes who talk like bad in the chat, and that's about it. Like, that's what you can do. That's not crazy. Okay. The show, dating back to the AWNP's original podcast, podcast form. All Work No Play is like one of Critical Role's like spin-off shows, I guess. All Work No Play is it was originally a podcast between two of the cast members, Liam O'Brien and Sam Riegel. It basically happened before the Critical Role show became a public thing, and now All Work No Play has been rebooted on the Critical Role channel, and it is a great show. I recommend it highly. Blah blah blah. The show dating back to All Work No Play's original podcast form, where it originated, has always suffered a history of off-color humor and content that has been marginalized folk and raised eyebrows for years. Again, I have no idea what he's talking about here. He gives no examples, which is why I don't know. Like, off-color humor, never seen that shit before. Never in my life. Like, I may have just not noticed, but I've also never seen anyone complaining about it. So at the same time, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe this guy just is exaggerating a little bit, and we're gonna get there. We're gonna get to the point of this, the smoking gun, so to speak. When you made those mistakes and entrenched yourself in a culture that does and condones things that you may not agree with, how do you safely get out? And how do you shield marginalized peoples as you go? Again, this is all coming off very preachy. I sympathize with their stories of being a small company struggling to run. I sympathize with... Again, this is very, like, high and mighty. Like, I sympathize with this small company. Like, dude, what are you talking about? They might be a quote-unquote small company, but they're still... I mean, let's go over what Critical Role has done in the past few years alone. They left Geek and Sundry, becoming independent and taking over their merchandising rights. They grew their own channel. They have a show that gets millions of views on YouTube and tens of thousands of live views on Twitch. They started a Kickstarter for an animated series that garnered over $11 million. And then they got hired by Amazon Prime to make 2 seasons of the show. They got taken on by Amazon Prime to make 2 seasons of an animated show. That's just in the past, like, few years. I might be even forgetting something. They are not a tiny little company. They're growing, okay? Yeah, they're like I guess they're a small company. Like, they don't have that many people in it. They're not like a huge monopoly or whatever, but this high and mighty talk of, oh, it's just I sympathized with this small company. Like, dude, come on. Seriously? I'm actually starting to get frustrated. It was our job as consultants to redirect the products. What job? You were never hired by them. This guy. Again, let me just... Alright. We're gonna get there. I want to skip to the point of this whole thing, and we're like 20 minutes in, but I want to read this whole damn thing to expose just how disingenuous this guy really is. After 4 months, on one of our video calls, I remember specifically having brought up issues that month, such as whitewash art. Look, oh my god, he's talking about whitewashed fan art? What the... Okay, look, it sucks that someone whitewashed this fictional character that in a D&D game, which is a game that takes place in your mind, so technically characters can kind of look like whatever you want. But, look, whitewashed fan art? Is this what you're going on about? And the bi-presidency bit. The bi-president... Is he talking about the skit between Liam O'Brien and Sam Riegel? That shit was funny. Are you serious? It was just 2 guys who decided to be co-presidents together. And there was, like, occasional jokes about how they're in a relationship. Like, not even in the skit. Those jokes came from outside the skit. Is that what he's talking about? Is he saying that jokes about 2 guys being in a relationship and the fact that those 2 guys were in a skit together shows homophobe... Again, like, I'm trying to wrap my mind around all these accusations. Anyway. My team's original outreach and the following emails were things I viewed as good faith exchange, but the work I'd been doing for months afterward have been difficult and sensitive. The people I worked with deserve to be compensated for their help. There we are, found it. Finally we get there. This guy's complaining because he wasn't paid. Yup. After many long conversations with close friends, I finally accepted that to continue to do this work without pay would not be self-respecting. Holy shit. Dude, you took the long scenic route, but you finally got to the point. This guy's salty because he wasn't paid for work he volunteered for. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone listening to the show should have some idea of how employment works. But here's the thing. You can't do work for free, never be hired, and then demand to be paid. That's not how that shit works. Okay? That's not how it works. You cannot do work for free, never be hired, and not be paid. And then demand to be paid. In fact, if you do work for free, it's for free. Like, they don't have to pay you. They're under no legal obligation to pay you. They, in fact, should probably not pay you. This guy approached them unsolicited and gave them advice, which they kindly listened to for months. And then he's like, okay, I want money now. So, essentially, he claims that they agreed he claims that they agreed they should pay him, and then ghosted him. Now, let me get this straight. They can agree to a lot of things. When I was trying to get a job at 7-Eleven, and the lady told me, I'm gonna hire you. You're a guarantee. You're gonna get hired. And then she didn't hire me. Straight up, she just didn't hire me. She just ghosted me. That sucks. But it's not illegal. Shit happens, man. Okay? This guy, I don't even know, like, the quality of his advice, because, again, he provides no resume, no, like, story, because it's not just something anyone can do. I mean, being a consultant for an entire group, I mean, that's, like, something that requires some form of experience with how this sort of stuff works. Now, we're gonna get into it, but here's the thing. That was the point. I believe genuinely, I can't prove it, but I believe that genuinely, this is the point of the whole thread, is that he's mad because he wasn't paid. Which is stupid. As I just explained, now this guy's been on a flurry of tweets. He has been on a very aggressive, I'd say, flurry of tweets. I'll link his profile in the description down below. You can look through him yourself. He's complaining about how people are harassing him, which, when you put out a statement like that, like, dude, you should kind of see it coming. But anyway, an anonymous user. Now, he's gotten a lot, I'm sure this guy's gotten a lot of shitty, terrible messages, which, I mean, that's just the kind of the way it goes. I've received shitty, terrible messages, and this show barely gets views outside of some friends. Come on. But, here we go. This is actually a good question. Where is the proof that you were hired by Critical Role? Because it just looks like you talked to them via email and Discord unsolicited, and they ghosted because your multiple-page ramblings confused the poor assistant reading them. That doesn't constitute employment. Spot on. Spot on. The response. I'm sorry, Anonymous, but this is the funniest hill to die on ever. You critters, fans of Critical Role, really truly believe you know everything about how Critical Role functions better than people who have worked with them. And there is no amount of proof that could ever sate that kind of rock-solid brand loyalty. Take your weird, victim-blamey accusations elsewhere, or better yet, keep them to yourself, star. Look, I'm trying to be nice. I do try to be nice sometimes. But, frankly, this guy's kind of a fucking dick. Now let me get this straight. This guy asked a pretty legitimate question. Yes, he was a little mean at the end, but he asked a pretty legitimate question, and this guy doesn't respond with any, and yeah, I should probably clarify, stop saying this guy, because, it's confusing. But the accuser, Lose Better, doesn't respond with any actual proof. He just gets mad at the guy, says you are brand loyal, which, yeah, he is. But, I mean, the least you could do is just send him some evidence. This is the dumbest shit ever. This is literally a random fan who emailed the company. Again, not throwing shade. I'm a random fan, too. This is a random fan of Critical Role who emailed the company saying, you're homophobic and racist. Here's how you could be better, which, this is stupid. My God. Alright, I should probably pull up the response to this. Critical Role released a pretty decent response to the whole shebang. They're saying that they're launching a full investigation into his claims, which is good. And they're saying they don't condone any harassment or bullying, which, you know, duh. But anyway, here's something from Ajit George. He is the director of operatives for that company, featured in Netflix original series, Daughters of Destiny. He's a TEDx speaker. He's a gaming advocate and writer. Basically, here is, he's, since 2013, he's done countless hours of consulting for various companies and organizations. I really couldn't tell you how many hours, but it's a lot. And as I just read, basically, like, a little summary of what he's done. He does a lot of stuff. This guy's legit. Here's his response. Reading Lose Better's thread, they seem like a super fan who started sending in unsolicited advice. The CR rep responded in a kind fashion and said, thanks, please let us know how we can do better. They decided that meant they were now cultural consultant / sensitivity reader. Again, that basically sums it up. This is an actual consultant, and he has a whole thread going over, like, what it actually means to be a consultant. And yeah, this Lose Better guy is not a consultant. He's just a super fan who thinks he's smart. Clearly he's not. Even though he's the one telling the story, it's still plain and easy to see through his bullshit. And again, I don't want to be, like, bragging on this guy. Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe 100% Critical Role is in the wrong in this situation. But even based on the story that Lose Better himself tells, it's so easy to just cut through so much bullshit and get to the point. The guy wants money. He seems like a self-righteous prick. The way he talks to other people the way he tweets other people, like, he just comes off as a self-righteous prick who wants cash. Don't send any harassment to the guy. Don't talk to him at all, actually. Just let the wheels turn. But again, I think that this is some of the dumbest shit I've ever had to read. And we read some dumb shit on the show. I think I read, like, an Onision article this one time. That was torture. Okay? We read dumb shit on the show. But that was some of the dumbest. And it's about to get dumber. It's time to move on to something else. It's time to move on to something awful. Holy shit, we talked about that shit for like 30 minutes. Oh my god. Alright, well, we gotta hurry up here. I don't have much to say about these next topics because I'm not as knowledgeable, but I do have some insight into them. Open up with Jenna Marbles has left YouTube. She's a really big content creator, millions of subs. It was a staple on YouTube for a long time, and she has come under fire recently by what I so lovingly refer to as fucking shit, I used to be able to say this easy. Cancel culture. There we go. Cancel culture. The cancer of cancel culture, yes. She has come under fire for a joke, and I'll admit, it wasn't awesome. It was a pretty terrible Nicki Minaj impression that involved a little bit of casual blackface. I'm not condoning that kind of behavior. That's not good. Quite frankly, that's bad. But at the end of the day, do you know how long ago the joke was made? It was a decade. It was a decade ago. When you look at the way Jenna Marbles has acted in the decades since, it's pretty clear and obvious that she doesn't think that way anymore. I think digging up jokes that someone made 10 years ago is hilariously pointless. Because people change. I know people don't think like 30-something is that young, but you're still changing your perspectives like well into your 50s, 60s, etc. I mean, come on. I was talking to, no, actually, you know, I'm not even gonna bring that up. It doesn't really add much, and I don't have much time. But I'm just gonna say this. Digging up people's past, especially when something's so just dumb as a stupid joke that I'll admit was really stupid. A stupid racist joke from 10 years ago is hilariously pointless. I do not know what the point is. What's the goal? The goal is to what? Get her to change? She's changed. She's never made a joke like that since. In fact, she acts like the complete opposite person like she was that she was in that video. She's exceptionally kind. She comes off as exceptionally kind, caring, nice, generally nice person. And yeah, she herself admits that she has made problematic content in the past. However, here's my take. Like I said before, there is no... I didn't say this before, but I'll say this now. There is no time travel machine. Jenna Marbles can't go back in time and change her mistake. What's the goal here? If there's no goal, then what's the point? The goal is, I guess, to, what, bully her off the platform for something she said 10 years ago that she can do nothing about now? I'll come out and say this. 10 years ago, what was I like? For example, I didn't believe gay people even existed. I thought it was like this fake thing 10 years ago. Because I was a dumb, ignorant, stupid kid. That was 10 years ago. I don't think like that shit anymore. Alright? That little shithead is a completely different person. If someone held me accountable for the dumb shit I said as a kid 10 years ago, I'd be pissed. Because that's stupid. And yeah, I'll admit, Jenna Marbles wasn't a kid, like a 13-year-old or whatever, when she made this. She was legally an adult. But when you live for 10 more years, your perspective and the way you live and the way you act changes drastically. And everyone's saying that sort of, like, this cancel culture shit, they better have a squeaky clean ass past, okay? They better, because I swear, everyone has done something iffy or said something iffy, and I have been on record in saying that people on the internet should be held to a higher standard. And frankly, ever since, with the exception of that joke and maybe a few others that I haven't seen, Jenna Marbles has held that standard. PewDiePie said it best. She was straight up bullied off this platform. She was bullied off YouTube. That's how it is. Okay? And I think it's bullshit. It really is. The cancer of cancel culture is something that has been continually criticized and yet still endures. I'm not saying that we shouldn't criticize people. There are some people who engage in cancel culture that I talk to, like actually discuss this with, in a mature way, of course. I'm not like doing this shit. None of them watch this show. Come on. But I've talked to them, and often I hear this justification. Oh, are you saying we shouldn't criticize people? Are you saying we shouldn't call people out when they do something wrong? No, that's not what I'm saying. Obviously, I criticize people all the damn time. I just did it, just 7 minutes ago. I just went on a whole tangent about this dude on Twitter who's trying to cause shit. I just criticized this whole idea. I called him mean things, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't criticize people. That is not what I'm saying, because that would be incredibly hypocritical if I did say that. Here's what I am saying. I am saying that we should criticize people with a purpose. What's the purpose of digging up Jenna Marbles' old tweet? Old video, like old Nicki Minaj impression. What's the purpose of that? From 10 years ago. To get her to change? She has changed. She is a different person. Is it to, expose who she was 10 years ago to her fans? A person that for all intents and purposes basically doesn't exist anymore? She's a changed person now. That's not very much of a purpose. If the purpose is to shut down her channel and ruin her career, that's a pretty shitty purpose. Just straight up. If that's the purpose, it's shitty and we probably shouldn't engage in that kind of garbage, right? At the end of the day, this is dumb. Digging up old jokes is stupid. If someone is doing something that they did 10 years ago And if Jenna Marbles made that stupid impression 10 years ago and continually behaved this way for years up until this point, then I'd get it. That would be justified. You have to look at what they've done since. And when you look at how she's acted since, and again, I'm not a mega fan of Jenna Marbles. I don't know much about her. But I can just look at her channel, browse around, and see that she looks like a good, decent person. Right? And, frankly, holding her accountable for jokes she made 10 years ago, like I said, has no purpose besides ruin career, which is a shitty purpose. So yeah. I think it's dumb. I think this whole the cancer of cancel culture needs to stop. It really does. It truly does. It needs to stop. I'm not saying that we should stop criticizing people on the internet. I'm not saying we should stop calling people out on the internet. That is not what I'm saying. We should continue to do that. We should continue to hold people responsible for things they actually do, but it has to have an actual purpose besides ruin their lives, right? If you're trying, like for example, I talked extensively about Onision. The purpose there was to get someone who was genuinely dangerous off this damn platform. He's still on it, by the way. He hasn't left. Onision is still on the platform. He's still on YouTube while Jenna Marbles is running for the hills. That is stupid. That is unacceptable, quite frankly. Jenna Marbles is forced to flee YouTube while people like Onision and Keemstar still run free. That's dumb. To me, that's the dumbest part. People who genuinely have done things that are incredibly, suspicious is like the generous term, for years, consistently, constantly, all the time. People who need to be called out are still around. Well, Jenna Marbles has held account for a joke 10 years ago. Is that seriously worth holding her accountable for? Again, I will never say this enough. This is dumb. I made before I quit, I quit temporarily. I made a podcast that I ended up deleting about like this Colleen Ballinger controversy, how cancel culture affected her. I made a video, I also talked about Filthy Frank, how people were for canceling Joji because he was Filthy Frank and made jokes years ago that were meant to... Guys, it's so dumb. We should not be actively searching for reasons to be mad at someone. We should not be actively digging into shit to find a reason to be mad at someone. If there's shit that's plain and obvious to see that sets you off, then go talk about that. But don't dig into someone just because we want to find something she said 10 years ago. That's the definition of idiocy and pointlessness. Okay, we wrap that up. Alright, so we do have a little bit of international news to be talking about. So I'm going to just turn on, here we go. We have India banning TikTok as well as a number of other apps. The ministry claimed, India's Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology released a statement. Again, I have to kind of like lean over my microphone here. I need to revamp my setup again because this is a little awkward. But India's Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology released a statement last Monday night saying that it was banning apps that are prejudicial to sovereignty and integrity of India, defense of India, security of state, and public order. So among these apps are TikTok, WeChat, and Weibo. I don't know about WeChat and Weibo or Weibo, but I do know about TikTok, and a lot of other people do too. TikTok is probably one of the most popular apps out there for younger kids and also strange old men. And that was mean. But anyway, essentially this is a pretty big deal. TikTok had about many millions of users in India. To this day, well, not to this day because now they're all gone, but yeah, they had a very large audience in India, and banning the app is a big deal. So essentially what they were saying was, I went back to the wrong paragraph. The ministry is claiming that they are stealing and surreptitiously transmitting users' data in an unauthorized manner to servers which have locations outside of India. The compilation of these data, its mining and profiting by elements hostile to national security and defense of India, which ultimately impinges upon the sovereignty and integrity of India, is a matter of very deep and immediate concern which requires emergency measures. So, again, I don't know, like, all of the details about this whole thing. Like, I don't really know government trade secrets, right? However, what is known is TikTok, and I'm assuming these other apps do have, let's just say, suspicious ownership that have to do in have origins in a certain large country in Asia. We're talking about China. And unfortunately, I actually don't know like all the details of how those sort of companies extract the information. Again, like I really don't know what you'd be extracting through TikTok. However, there is a possibility of very sensitive information being leaked. And if India's Ministry of Technology, and it's not like, I don't know how, again, I want to do a little bit more. We should all do a little bit more research into this, and I wish I did before doing this podcast, but I encourage you to do a little bit of research yourself. I don't really know how paranoid the Ministry of Technology is in India. Like, maybe they're just banning a ton of apps all over the place just because there's a possibility. But I imagine that they themselves have found something in TikTok and in these other apps that is concerning enough that they're going to ban an app that's used by literally millions of people across their country, right? I mean, this is definitely a big deal. The response from an Indian internet activist and journalist told Forbes that the decision to ban the apps appears to be largely a political one. There hasn't been significant change to the way that these apps work in the last 3 months, and the announcement looks like it was made to send a signal to China. So, yeah, that's one claim. TikTok themselves responded to the ban and said that the app is following government regulations. We have been invited to meet with concerned government stakeholders for an opportunity to respond and submit clarifications. TikTok India does have is a thing. TikTok does have a subsidiary of sorts. I don't know, subsidiary is the right word, like a branch. There we go, in India. So I'm imagining that meeting is going to happen. It was a blocking of not just like 3 apps, by the way. Those are the 3 biggest apps. It was 59 different apps. I'll link an article down in the description below. I'm reading a lot of this off of, but the point is that just be careful about what you're putting out there, I guess, because you never know when big brother China is extracting the data. We'll see how this all pans out. I don't imagine the Indian government are going to be very lenient on this ban. So I don't see the poor Indian users of TikTok getting their app back anytime soon. But I don't really give a shit about TikTok, so tragic. Anyway, that's a quick little update on TikTok's status in the international market. It's not entirely great. With that being said, I suppose it is time to wrap this up. My throat is so dry, I need a drink. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this episode of the CrispyCast, please do leave a like. If you want to see more episodes of the CrispyCast or watch my new series, I Saw This on the Internet, please do subscribe on the YouTube side. And if you want to listen to this podcast, follow on whatever platform you desire. And if you're on the YouTube side, please leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. And I will see you all next time. Farewell.